You know exactly who hurt you, and you miss them anyway. Not in a soft, nostalgic way. In a physical way, a pull in your chest at 2 a.m., a reflex to check their name in your phone, a hollow feeling that doesn't answer to logic. You've told yourself 100 times that they were bad for you. Your friends told you, you told yourself. And still, the missing doesn't stop. That's not weakness. That's your brain running a survival program that kept your ancestors alive for 2,000,000 years. Here's what no one explains to you. The attachment you feel to someone who hurt you isn't a malfunction. It's a mechanism, one of the oldest your nervous system owns. And once you understand what it actually is, where it comes from, what it was built to do, the shame lifts. Not because the pain disappears, but because you finally see the thing clearly. There's a whole language society uses to describe people in your position. Codependent, weak, addicted to drama, can't let go. People who care about you say these things with good intentions, and they land like small cuts anyway. Because the implication is always the same. Something is wrong with you. You chose this. You're holding on because some part of you wants to suffer. That framing is not only unhelpful, it's factually incorrect. It mistakes the symptom for a character flaw and leaves you with nothing but self-contempt to work with. The truth is more precise than that. The attachment you can't shake isn't about weakness or poor judgment. It's about what your brain was specifically designed to prioritize under conditions of threat, and that design made perfect sense for a very long time. Psychologists call it trauma bonding. But that term often gets used like a diagnosis, a label that ends the conversation rather than opens it. The mechanism underneath is more interesting and far older than modern psychology. What you're experiencing is a stress attachment loop, a cycle in which intermittent pain and intermittent warmth from the same source train your nervous system to fixate on that source with extraordinary intensity. Patrick Carnes, a researcher who spent decades studying compulsive attachment patterns, described this loop not as love gone wrong, but as a survival circuit operating under the wrong conditions, a circuit that, in the right environment, would have saved your life. That environment was not a city, it was not an apartment, a text thread, or a relationship that could be ended with a conversation. It was a small band of 50 to 150 people moving across a landscape where exclusion meant death. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent years mapping the social architecture of early human groups and found that our brains evolved to manage relationships within that specific scale, intimate, interdependent, and impossible to simply leave. In that world, the most dangerous thing that could happen to you wasn't an argument, it was disconnection. So here is what your ancient brain learned to do. When someone in your group caused you harm, real harm, repeated harm, your nervous system didn't conclude, this person is a threat, remove them. It concluded something far more urgent. This person has power over my belonging, which means my survival depends on repairing this relationship. The brain didn't distinguish between a person who hurt you and a person who controlled your access to the group. They were often the same person. A dominant member, a parent figure, someone whose approval determined your place in the tribe. Losing them wasn't heartbreak, it was exile. Your brain coded that threat into its deepest circuitry. And here is where the mechanism gets specific. When a relationship alternates between cruelty and warmth, criticism followed by affection, coldness followed by closeness, your dopamine system does something counterintuitive. It doesn't shut down, it accelerates. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz documented this in studies on reward prediction. Unpredictable rewards generate stronger dopamine spikes than consistent ones. Your nervous system isn't responding to the love. It's responding to the uncertainty. The on-again, off-again pattern is, neurologically, more activating than steady kindness. Think of a slot machine. You don't keep pulling the lever because you always win. You keep pulling because you sometimes do, and you never know when. The person who hurt you was, to your ancient brain, the most important lever in the room. There's a second layer. When you're in pain, real emotional pain, the kind that comes from rejection or humiliation by someone you love, your body releases cortisol. That's the stress hormone, the one that sharpens your focus and narrows your attention to the source of the threat. And what does your brain focus on? Them. How to fix it. What you did wrong. How to get back to safety. The cortisol essentially turns your attention into a spotlight aimed directly at the person causing you harm. Not because you're masochistic, because your brain is trying to solve a survival problem. In the ancestral world, that spotlight saved lives. You couldn't afford to look away from the person who had the power to cast you out. Now, consider what happens when you leave, or when they leave. The cortisol is still there. The dopamine circuitry is still searching for the next unpredictable reward. The attachment system is still running its ancient calculation. This person equals survival. Reestablish contact. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that can read the situation clearly and say this relationship was damaging, is fighting against a system that predates language, predates reason, predates the entire concept of a relationship you can simply walk away from. No wonder logic doesn't fix it. You're bringing a spreadsheet to a wildfire. The world shifted too fast for this system to keep up. In roughly 200 years, we moved from small, stable communities where relationships were lifelong and irreplaceable to a world where you can meet hundreds of people a year, where you can leave a relationship and still be perfectly safe, where the person who hurt you has no actual power over your survival. But your nervous system hasn't received that update. It's still running the old code, the one that says losing this person equals losing the tribe equals death. The cost of that mismatch is what you're paying right now. The sleepless nights, the phantom grief, the inexplicable pull towards someone your conscious mind has already convicted. So, what do you do with a brain that won't stop searching for someone it was wired to keep? You don't fight the mechanism, you work with it. The first thing, name what's happening in real time. Not, I miss them, but my stress attachment circuit is activated right now. This isn't just semantics. Research by neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman at UCLA found that labeling an emotional state with precise language reduces amygdala activation. It literally lowers the intensity of the feeling. You're not suppressing the emotion. You're giving your prefrontal cortex a foothold. Instead of being inside the pull, you're standing slightly outside it, watching it. That gap is where your agency lives. The second thing, interrupt the cortisol loop with physical displacement. Not distraction displacement. Go somewhere your body has to navigate. A walk outside, cold water on your face, anything that requires your nervous system to process real-time sensory input. Your brain cannot simultaneously run the survival threat loop and process novel physical information at full intensity. You're not escaping the feeling. You're giving your nervous system a different problem to solve, one that exists in the present rather than in the past. The third thing, rebuild what the attachment was actually substituting for. In the ancestral world, one person rarely held all your belonging. You had a tribe, multiple sources of safety, recognition, and connection. When one relationship becomes the entire container for your sense of security, your brain treats its loss like a tribal exile. That's not love. That's a structural problem. Not a flaw in you, a gap in your current ecosystem. The work isn't to stop caring about the person. It's to gradually redistribute the weight so that your nervous system has more than one anchor. Here is the reframe that changes everything. You don't miss someone who hurt you because you're broken or confused or secretly in love with your own suffering. You miss them because your brain is precisely calibrated, it just got aimed at the wrong threat. The attachment isn't evidence of damage. It's evidence of a system doing exactly what it evolved to do, running at full power in a world it wasn't built for. The ancient part of you isn't wrong about the importance of belonging. It's just holding on to a person when what it's really trying to protect is something much older and much more essential. The need to not be left out in the cold alone. That need is real. It was always real. The person just wasn't the right answer to it. You were never broken. You were just remembering.